What Jimi Hendrix means to me, what Jimi Hendrix means to me and to my music, is an incredible originator. You know, very original, and he took a lot of things that influenced him. Like he took blues and R&B and science fiction and turned it into a complete, another world of music. So for me, Hendrix is a great original. And the other thing about Jimmy was that he was relentlessly present in his music. You know, like all the things in his life are there. All his anguish, all his fear. You know, he's like a lot of artists now, I feel like they write songs for a marketplace, or they write songs to whatever it is. But Jimi Hendrix is really, he was in touch with his imagination, and he was in touch with himself as a human being, you know, as a man, in his sense of humor about things, which is never forced. I thought he was a giant. He's a giant to me. I've heard that people are developing some of the early synthesizers. We're trying to imitate Hendrix's waveform in some of the oscillators they're developing, which I've heard that. You know, I don't know how true that is, but it's a nice story. You know, there's like the story that the reason that there's sound reinforcement. A technician once told me that the reason that there's sound reinforcement is because they had to get the PA to be louder than Jimmy's voice. So sound reinforcement really started because his guitar was so loud that they had to keep piling on amps for the microphone. Now, if you remember when the Beatles played at Shea Stadium, they had like a tiny, like it was like they couldn't hear anything because people were screaming the whole time. So the whole idea of sound reinforcement, you know, there's so many things, you know, the whole idea of his style, you know, the way, you know, the whole idea of reinvention and self-invention was something that he really did, that he really took on himself with the aid of his girlfriends, of his many girlfriends. And the other thing, I think there's one other thing about Jimi Hendrix is that Jimi Hendrix was an original. And the real thing about Hendrix, like there are a lot of people that kind of play like Hendrix note for note, you know. But the thing about Jimmy was that Jimmy was an original, just like Coltrane or Miles Davis. He was a real, or Ornette Coleman. He was original. So the real lesson of Jimi Hendrix is to do your own thing. You know, that's my great lesson from him, from Santana, you know, from George Benson, from all these great musicians, Eric Dolphy. Do your thing.